noticed this, but this President Javier Milei in Argentina, he did his own little rug pull, right? He did his own little crypto rug pull. That was what a lot of people are accusing him of, at least. All right, I'm not going to necessarily go investigative journalist on him. There's a lot of people who have done that, who do that. But rather, we're just going to use this story as kind of a jumping off point to talk about the history of Argentina for this week. So we're going to start with this. And it says, Argentine President Javier Milei has denied promoting a newly launched cryptocurrency, which collapsed shortly after he mentioned it in a social media post on Friday. So, listen to what he says here. It says, the crypto coin $ Libra quickly rose in value before nosediving, causing severe losses for the majority of people who had invested in it. All right, the judge will now determine if the president should face fraud charges over the incident. Where does he say? First of all, this is a president of a country, right? So if he says anything, that is promoting that thing. But listen to what he says here. He says, on Monday, Milei said he acted in good faith and dismissed investors' complaints, comparing their actions to people who gamble. If you go to a casino and lose money, what's there to complain about when you knew the risks, right? Even though it would be like a president or Trump, promoting a casino. That's literally what it would be like him going on X or Twitter or making a commercial and saying, hey, visit such and such casino. All right. Is it President Milei spoke about the $ Libra incident in an interview with Argentine TV channel Todo Noticias. All right, so I guess that's like all notices. On Monday after a weekend during which he stayed unusually quiet on social media. He insisted that his post on X, which contained a link to a site selling $ Libra, did not constitute an endorsement. Really. He posted a link and everything, but he didn't endorse it though. I didn't promote it, I merely shared it, he told Todo Noticias Johnny Viale, right? So, him being the president of a country, if he posts a link to anything, that's promotion, all right? Quite literally. Any kind of celebrity who posts a link to anything, that's promotion. It just is. And even when you go a couple years back to the Kyrie Irving thing, when he tried to use the same defense, right? Even though I agree with what he was doing, he said he didn't promote the movie or the book or whatever. And that specifically was from Hebrews to Negroes, right? When he absolutely did. He did promote it, and that was a good thing that he did. But of course, he tries to use it, well, I'm just sharing it, I'm not promoting it. Anybody who has status, anyone who has merit, anyone who has a name, if you share anything on social media, that is promotion of said thing, right? There are plenty of companies that pay quote unquote influencers to do just that because they know that they have a name. They just they pay them to use said product or talk about said product, right? Because they know that even mentioning something at that level, when you have that level of status, is promotion, right? There's no doubt about it. All right. I wonder if they're going to be as hard on Milei here as they were on Kyrie, right? Milei's post, which he deleted after just a few hours, drew heavy criticism, not just from his political rivals in Argentina, but also from those who had invested in the cryptocurrency, right? So even his constituents, even the people that he represents, they say, hey, look, we bought into this cryptocurrency because you said this was going to be big for Argentina, right? So we bought into it, now we got rug pulled, all right? Some have argued the $ Libra launch resembled a rug pull where promoters draw in buyers only to stop trading activity and make off with the money raised from sales, right? The cryptocurrency is just a big scam, all right? In 99.9% of the cases. Maybe Bitcoin is, only increasing in value and will only ever do good, but with that's maybe, and it doesn't even seem like that's the case. It seems, very unstable. But with all these other new cryptos that people are putting out, yeah, it's all a scam. All right, everybody does their crypto thing. Everybody does their crypto scam, and everybody does this rug pull thing immediately afterwards. It's the same as like buying a stock in something, and as soon as and promoting that stock, and as soon as everybody buys into that stock, you sell, right? Being the major shareholder, right? That's the way to make the most money in stock, right? It's the same thing with these crypto coins. It's the way to make the most money is by rug pulling people, which is deceitful. Yes, it is, and it is all about the love of money. All right, that's how you make real money doing the cryptos. That's really the only way to make real money doing crypto is by rug pulling people. The presidential office insisted that Milei was in no way involved in the development of Libra. Yeah, I'm sure he wasn't. And announced that the anti-corruption office would determine if the president had acted improperly. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. He definitely did. I mean, if he was just promoting this stock unknowingly, then he is just, a puppet, which is very possible that he is just a puppet. But it's also very likely that he was, in on the plan, so to speak. Milei himself defended deleting his post, saying that at the time he did not know the details of the project, and after learning about it, I decided not to continue promoting it. So he as the president of a country, drew up a tweet and made a post without actually reviewing what he was talking about. His whole defense here is, hey, I'm stupid, right? Like that's crazy. That's crazy that he would even try to make that defense. Opposition politicians, however, have not been placated by the statements, threatening to start impeachment proceedings against Milei. While political analysts point out that the opposition is unlikely to get the votes needed for an impeachment trial to go ahead, the scandal threatens to divert Milei's attention away from his radical reform agenda. Which, I don't know if his reform agenda is radical, because as we're about to read, he's actually libertarian. And we'll get to that eventually. A federal judge has been tasked with deciding whether fraud allegations brought against the president by a number of plaintiffs should go ahead. In his TV interview, Milei appeared combative, stressing that he had nothing to hide. He also said that those who had invested in $Libra had done so voluntarily, right? I didn't pull the money out of their pockets, right? They did it voluntarily and knew of the risk. It's like playing Russian roulette and getting the bullet. So where was all that talk of, hey, this is a gamble, this is, very risky whenever he made the post, right? But now in his defense, hey, they always knew, right? They knew what it was about. And here recently, and this is from a while ago, Milei, Musk, and MAGA, all right? But here recently, he gave Elon Musk a bureaucracy chainsaw. Let me see if I can't find a image of that. I don't necessarily want to watch this video, but if I can get this, and okay, so there's a thumbnail to that. Let's search Google for this. Images. Yeah. So he give him this chainsaw. All right. He give him this symbolic chainsaw here. All right. But anyway, let's get into the history of Argentina. All right. The history of Argentina. So it says here in the pre-Columbian era, starting with the pre-Columbian era, I should say, the area now known as Argentina. Y'all forgive me. This is the only thing about using Wikipedia. Don't let me do the highlight that I usually like to do. Just try to follow my mouse and try to follow along. All right. The area now known as Argentina was relatively sparsely populated until the period of European colonization, and it's about to go into that why. The earliest traces of human life dated from the Paleolithic period, and there are further signs of the Mesolithic and Neolithic. However, large areas of the interior and Piedmont were apparently depopulated during an extensive dry period between 4000 and 2000 BC. Those aren't real numbers. What I'm looking into right here, it says the Uruguayan archaeologist Raul Campa Soler divided the indigenous peoples of Argentina into three main groups: basic hunter and food gatherers without the development of pottery, advanced gatherers and hunters, and basic farmers with pottery. The first group could be found in the Pampas in Patagonia, and the second one included the Charrua, Mimiwane and Guarani. All right, so these are the different nomadic tribes who lived in the region. Right, some were more settled than others, and I I was reading it differently as far as let's go to this other one. The Wikipedia entry for Argentina, because I did look on Britannica and see what it had to say. I didn't really like the wording when it got to particular history, and it left some things out. So this is what I was reading earlier. This is what I was looking at earlier. All right, so all these different groups of Charrua, Mimiwane, and Guarani. And this is what I wanted to show here. With slash and burn, semi-sedentary existence, right? So that the slash and burn is you rotate the crops and you even rotate areas, right? You move, you pick up and you move and you locate to different areas to grow. All right. So that's what I wanted to get. All these tribes here, the Charrua, Mimiwane, and the Guarani, and I may be mispronouncing those, but they were all nomadic. They were all at least semi-nomadic, all right? But they were all nomadic, so keep that in mind, all right? So Europeans first arrived in the region in 1502 with the voyage of Amerigo Vespucci. That's where you get the name America from. It's from Amerigo Vespucci. He's an Italian. He was a map maker. He was a cartographer. I don't know why I didn't say that here. He was an explorer and navigator, but he was also a cartographer. That's where you get the term America from. It's from Amerigo Vespucci. The Spanish navigators Juan Diaz de Solis and Sebastian Cabot, or Cabot, visited the territory that is now Argentina in 1516 and 1526, respectively. And in 1536, Pedro de Mendoza, founded the small settlement of Buenos Aires, which was abandoned in 1541. So Buenos Aires literally means good heirs. Literally means good heirs. So keep that in mind. All right. So as we see here, further colonization efforts came from Paraguay, establishing the government of the Rio de la Plata, Peru and Chile. Francisco de Aguirre founded Santiago del Estero in 1553. Londres was founded in 1558. Mendoza in 1561. San Juan in 1562. San Miguel de Tucumán in 1565. Juan de Garay founded Santa Fe in 1573. In the same year, Geronimo Luis de Cabrera set up Cordoba. Garay went further south to refound Buenos Aires in 1580. San Luis was established in 1596. So here we see that all across the 16th century, all across the 1500s, is a colonial period, right? And that colonial period keeps going up until even with the Viceroyalty of Rio de la Plata in 1776. But even up until the late 1700s, early 1800s, right? So all that was a colonization time period, all right? And you did have, maybe I'll get to Galvarino. I wanted to touch on Galvarino a little bit, but Galvarino is where you get the, he's the real life Wolverine, and that's where you get the term Wolverine, right? So the way that Wolverine has like fights with the swords, or rather the knives that come out of his hands, Galvarino, he actually taped swords to the end of it. Yeah, here we go. So it says he was the Mapuche, right? And the Mapuche was one of these groups. I don't know if it's part of. Yeah, here we go. So it says where's that up here? The second group of advanced hunter and food gatherers, which include the Puelche, Corandi, and Serranos in the center east, and the Tehuelche in the south. All of them conquered by the Mapuche spreading from Chile, right? So the Mapuche were in the Argentina area as well. That's why I'm kind of iffy on Galvarino, because he actually was from the Chile area, but that's still Naftali. We'll get into that later. But Mapuche was actually fighting off. Does it not say Mendoza? Or does it say Mendoza? Part of the Arauco War. Yeah. Against Governor Garcia Hurtado de Mendoza. All right, so he was in the 1500s period. All right, so it says, as punishment for insurrection, some of these prisoners were condemned to amputation of their right hand and nose, while others, such as Galvarino, had both hands cut off. Right, so. And then it says Galvarino and the rest were then released as a lesson and warning for the rest of the Mapuche, right? So bad mistake on their part, all right? So I'm gonna skip down a little bit. So when returning to the Mapuche, he appeared before Capelcan and the Council of War, showing them his mutilations, crying out for justice. Crying out for justice and a greater rising of the Mapuche against this Spanish invader, like the one of Lautaro. For his bravery and gallantry, he was named by the council to command a squadron with knives fastened on both mutilated wrists, replacing his hands. He fought next to Capelcan in the following campaign until the Battle of Milarapu, where his squadron fought against that of Governor Mendoza himself, where he was able to strike down the number 2 in command. You see it right there. So Galvarino was the real-life inspiration for Wolverine. Let's go to images real quick, because that was like a historical image of it with his hands cut off. This is like an artist. These are like artist renditions of how he would have looked with his painted, or rather with his taped on knives. You see that right there. So that's he was badass. He was badass. All right, Galvarino was a mighty warrior. But anyway, that's more Chile than Argentina. But he was part of the Mapuche, and then it mentions them briefly here during this colonial period. All right. So late 1700s, early 1800s, they start to establish themselves as their own country in Argentina. Right. So beginning a process from which Argentina was to emerge as successor state, the viceroyalty. Because you have the viceroyalty of the Rio de la Plata, which kind of covered different South American countries. All right. Let's see if we got an image of it here. I'm sure we will. Yeah, so it's all this in the light green, I guess, is the viceroyalty. Yeah, so it's not even. Here we go. So you have it going all the way up into South America to a certain extent, then going all the way down. All right. So, going back. So, in 1810, the 1810 May Revolution replaced the viceroy, Baltasar Hidalgo de Cisneros, with the first junta, a new government in Buenos Aires made up from the locals. In the first clashes of the Independence War, the junta crushed a royalist counter-revolution in Cordova, but failed to overcome those of the Banda Oriental, Upper Peru, and Paraguay, which later became independent states. All right, so that's how you had different South American countries establish themselves. All right, so and it goes on. I'll just read on down for this. I'll just read on down. So it says the French Argentine Hippolyte Bouchard. Then, I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'm going to butcher some of these names, y'all forgive me. All right. Hippolyte Bouchard then brought his fleet to wage war against Spain overseas and attacked Spanish California, Spanish Peru, and Spanish Philippines. All right, he secured the allegiance of escaped Filipinos in San Blas, who defected from the Spanish to join the Argentine Navy due to common Argentine and Philippine grievances against Spanish colonization, right? So you had the Argentinians and the Filipino people united at this point, all right? Jose de San Martin's brother, Juan Fermin de San Martin, was already in the Philippines and drumming up revolutionary fervor prior to this. At a later date, the Argentine sign of Inca origin, Son of May, was adopted as a symbol by the Filipinos in the Philippine Revolution against Spain. He also secured the diplomatic recognition of Argentina from King Kamehameha the First of the Kingdom of Hawaii. Historian Pancho O'Donnell affirms that Hawaii was the first state that recognized Argentina's independence. He was finally arrested in 1819 by Chilean patriots. All right, revolutionaries split into two antagonist groups, the Centralists and the Federalists, a move that would define Argentina's first decades of independence, right? So you had this revolution that they had against Spain to become their own country, and the Centralists and the Federalists were both united against Spain, I believe. Yeah. So they both had different visions for what they wanted Argentina to be, but neither one of them wanted to be with Spain. All right. So it says on the 9th of July, 1816, the Congress of Tucumán formalized the Declaration of Independence in Argentina. All right. So I'm just skipping around here. Some of the most important figures of Argentine independence made a proposal known as the Inca Plan of 1816. Which proposed that the United Provinces of the Rio de la Plata, present-day Argentina, should be a monarchy led by a descent of the Inca. Juan Bautista Tupac Amaru, half-brother of Tupac Amaru II, was proposed as monarch. Some examples of those who supported this proposal were Manuel Belgrano, Jose de San Martin, and Martin Miguel de Güemes. The Congress of Tucumán finally decided to reject the Inca plan, creating instead a Republican centralist state, right? So a lot of people were like, hey, we should just keep the Inca tradition going, right? We should keep the Inca king, the Incan royalty going. And a lot of the people, most of the people, I should say, they were like, no, we're trying to get away from monarchies here, right? We're trying to be free, and the Inca plan will just put us under a different monarch, right? So they said, no, we're going to be a republic instead, all right? So in the Battle of Cepeda in 1820, it was between the Centralists and the Federalists. It resulted in the end of the Supreme Director rule. In 1826, Buenos Aires enacted another Centralist constitution with Bernardino Rivadavia being appointed as the first president of the country. However, the interior provinces soon rose against him, forced his resignation, and discarded the constitution. All right. So that's what you're going to see all throughout Argentinian history, is that you're going to see somebody come into power, and then the people, or rather some caudillos, I don't know how you pronounce it, but some military strongmen, some generals, overthrow, or I guess just anyone with any kind of military power, overthrow that leader and institute themselves, and that is like straight up and down, like one-to-one Northern Kingdom history. All right, so it said Bernardino Rivadavia being appointed as the first president of the country. However, the interior provinces soon rose against him, forced his resignation, and discarded the constitution. Centralists and Federalists resumed the Civil War. I suppose this would be in 1826. The latter prevailed and formed the Argentine Confederation in 1831, led by Juan Manuel de Rosas. During his regime, he faced a French blockade, and so that's here you have in the 1800s again. Now you have the European colonists trying to take back Argentina. All right, so you have the French and also the British around this time as well. So faced the French blockade in 1838 to 1840, the War of Confederation from 1836 to 1839, Anglo-French blockade from 1845 to 1850. But remained undefeated and prevented further loss of national territory. His trade restriction policies, however, angered the interior provinces, and in 1852, Justo Jose de Urquiza, another powerful caudillo, beat him out of power. As the new president of the Confederation, Urquiza enacted the liberal and federal 1853 Constitution, right? So how many different constitutions is this? It's 3 different constitutions that they've had. Said Buenos Aires seceded, but was forced back into the Confederation after being defeated in the 1859 Battle of Cepeda, right? So we had a different Battle of Cepeda in 1820, now we have another one in 1859, all right? So I just want to talk, because actually when you read further down in the history, I think you see this again. Yeah, so we're kind of going to skip over this late 1860s and then, just skip to the early 1900s. But you do see, as it says here, a massive wave of European immigration. But you also see, a couple different, same thing that we've seen as far as people overthrowing one another. All right, and you see an improvement in the economy with some industrialization. Let's see. I am trying to get through this because there's a lot to this. All right. So, let's see. So let's start here with, it says in 1912. In 1912, President Rosque Saenz Peña enacted universal and secret male suffrage, which allowed Hipólito I'm going to butcher this name, I already know it, Irigoyen, leader of the Radical Civic Union, the UCR, to win the 1916 election. He enacted social and economic reforms and extended assistance to small farms and businesses. Argentina stayed neutral during World War I. The second administration of Irigoyen faced an economic crisis precipitated by the Great Depression, right? So he was doing good as far as extending some economic reforms and doing good things for the, as I said, like small farms and businesses until the Great Depression, which, kind of ruined everything all around the world. So in 1930, Irigoyen was ousted from power by the military led by Jose Felix Uriburu. It's a hard name to say. Although Argentina remained among the 15 richest countries until mid-century, right? Until the middle of the 1900s. All right, this coup d'etat marks the start of the steady economic and social decline that pushed the country back into underdevelopment. All right, the Uriburu years. All right, so the years following Irigoyen. I guess these names don't get easier to pronounce until you get to Perón. All right, so it's Uriburu ruled for 2 years. Then Agustin Pedro Justo was elected in a fraudulent election, so they say that he stole that election, and signed a controversial treaty with the United Kingdom. Argentina stayed neutral during World War II, a decision that had full British support, but was rejected by the U.S. after the attack on Pearl Harbor. And in 1943, a military coup d'etat led by General Arturo Rawson toppled the democratically elected government of Ramon Castillo. Under pressure from the U.S., later Argentina declared war on the Axis powers, roughly a month before the end of World War II in Europe, right? So, isn't that just a kooky coincidence that, Argentina wanted to stay neutral during World War II, and they pretty much were, and the U.S. didn't like that, and then all of a sudden there was just this military coup, and then, they were more favorable to the U.S. position on things. Isn't that just a kooky coincidence? During the Rawson dictatorship, a relatively unknown military colonel named Juan Perón was named head of the Labor Department. Perón quickly managed to climb the political ladder, being named defense minister in 1944, being perceived as a political threat by rivals in the military and a conservative camp. He was forced to resign in 1945 and was arrested days later. He was finally released under mounting pressure from both his base and several allied unions. He later became president after a landslide victory over the UCR in the 1946 general election as the Labor candidate. All right, so this Juan Perón guy, as it says, the Peronist years, very, I would say, complicated and controversial figure. All right, did some good things for the country, did some bad things to the country. All right, but he's a very important figure in Argentine history, though. Perón was. The Labor Party, later renamed the Justicialist Party, the most powerful and influential party in Argentine history, came into power with the rise of Juan Perón to the presidency in 1946. He nationalized strategic industries and services, improved wages and working conditions, paid the full external debt, and claimed he achieved nearly full employment. He pushed Congress to enact women's suffrage in 1947 and developed a system of social assistance for the most vulnerable sectors of society. The economy began to decline in 1950 due in part to government expenditures and the protectionist economic policies, right? So he did a lot of good things, but also some of his policies led to an economic decline, all right? He also engaged in a campaign of political suppression, right? Also a bad thing, silencing his enemies, all right? Silencing his dissidents, I should say. Anyone who was perceived to be a political dissident or potential rival was subject to threats, physical violence, and harassment, right? Getting very authoritarian, getting very dictator-like, all right? The Argentine intelligentsia, the middle class, university students, and professors were seen as particularly troublesome, right? That's not a good look. The smartest people, the people who like learning the most, or the people that don't like you, that's not a good look. All right, the people that you're trying to take out are the people that know the most. That's not a good look. Perón fired over 2,000 university professors and faculty members from all major public education institutions. Perón tried to bring most trade and labor unions under his thumb, regularly resorting to violence when needed. For instance, the meatpackers union leader, Cipriano Reyes, organized strikes in protest against the government after elected labor movement officials were forcefully replaced by Peronist puppets from the Peronist party, right? And this guy is supposed to be the leader of the Labor Party, right? So why is he cracking down on unions? Why is he cracking down on, people who are also about labor, right? So why is he cracking down on these people? It's because maybe they didn't like some particular policies that he had, or maybe they didn't like how he was doing things, and hey, that makes them an enemy, right? So this Perón guy, very complicated and kind of a bad guy, kind of a jerk, to put it lightly. Reyes was soon arrested on charges of terrorism, though the allegations were never substantiated. You see it right there. So he would just call people terrorists for no good reason. All right, Reyes, who was never formally charged, was tortured in prison for 5 years and only released after the regime's downfall in 55. Perón managed to get re-elected in 51. His wife, Eva Perón, who played a critical role in the party, died of cancer in 52. As the economy continued to tank, Perón started losing popular support and came to be seen as a threat to the national process. The Navy took advantage of Perón's withering political power and bombed the Plaza de Mayo in 55. Perón survived the attack, but a few months later, during the Liberating Revolution coup, he was deposed and went into exile in Spain. So here we go, another coup. All right. So, what does it say? The Libertarian Revolution, or Liberating Revolution, excuse me. The new head of state, did not mean to do that. The new head of state, Pedro Eugenio Aramburu, proscribed Peronism and banned the party from any future election. And then Frondizi from the UCR won the 58 general election. He encouraged investment to achieve energetic and industrial self-sufficiency, reversed a chronic trade deficit, and lifted the ban on Peronism, right? So Frondizi said, hey, look, I don't like these Perons, but you can't ban the Peronism, right? You can't ban their political movement. Yet his efforts to stay on good terms with both the Peronists and the military earned him the rejection of both, and a new coup forced him out. So again, we have coup after coup after coup by different, I don't even think you'd call them caudillos at this point, but they pretty much were still caudillos. Amidst the political turmoil, Senate leader Jose Maria Guido reacted swiftly and applied anti-power vacuum legislation, ascending to the presidency himself. Elections were repeated and Peronism was prohibited once again. Arturo, Illa, was elected in 1963 and led an increase in prosperity across the board. However, he was overthrown in 66 by another military coup d'etat led by General Juan Carlos Onganía in self-proclaimed Argentine revolution, creating a new military government that sought to rule indefinitely. All right, so again, these what aren't referred to as caudillos, but still these military strongmen doing these, anybody that has any kind of military power doing these coups, overthrowing other leaders, and some of this I'm sure is like United States interventionism, and we're going to read about it as we go on down, but not all of it is. Some of it is just, that's just how Northern Kingdom deals with things, all right? And we're going to read that in the scriptures. Following several years of military rule, Alejandro Agustin Lanús was appointed president by the military junta in 71. Under increasing political pressure for the return of democracy, Lanús called for elections in 73. Perón was banned from running, but the Peronist party was allowed to participate. The presidential elections were won by Perón's surrogate candidate, Hector Campora, a left-wing Peronist who took office on the 25th of May 1973. A month later, in June, Perón returned from Spain, right? So Perón still has his hand in the politics at this point. One of Campora's first presidential actions was to grant amnesty to members of organizations that had carried out political assassinations and terrorist attacks, and to those who had been tried and sentenced to prison by judges. Camporo's months-long tenure in government was beset by political and social unrest. Over 600 social conflicts, strikes, and factory occupations took place within a single month, right? So the people are not happy at Camporo here, even though he claimed to be a left-wing candidate, all right? Took place within a single month. Even though far-left terrorist organizations had suspended their armed struggle, their joining with the participatory democracy process was interpreted as a direct threat by the Peronist right-wing faction. All right, so even amongst Peronists, even amongst people who supported Peron, you had the left wing and the right wing. Because as we read about Peron, how he acted, some things were, like viewed as, like liberating for left-wing causes. Others were viewed as, conservative type things that he did, and even authoritarian, all right, which doesn't necessarily have to be left or right-wing, but, he would say one thing and do another, right? He would do one thing and do the exact opposite, it would seem. All right, amid a state of political, social, and economic upheaval, Camporo and Vice President Vicente Solano Lima resigned in '73, calling for new elections. But this time with Peron as the Justicialist Party nominee. Peron won the election with his wife, Isabel Peron, as vice president, right? So he had a different wife the first time he was president. Now he's got his new wife, right, as his vice president this time. Peron's third term was marked by escalating conflict between left and right-wing factions within the Peronist Party, as well as the return of armed terror guerrilla groups such as the Guevarist ERP, leftist Peronist Montoneros, and the state-backed far-right AAA. So the AAA, I forget what it stands for, Argentinian Anti-Communist Alliance, right? So it's a far-right group, right? Yeah. After a series of heart attacks and signs of pneumonia in '74, Peron's health deteriorated quickly. He suffered a final heart attack on July 1st, 1974, and died at 1:15. He was 78 years old. After his death, Isabel Peron, his wife and vice president, succeeded him in office. During her presidency, a military junta, along with Peronist far-right fascist faction, once again became the de facto head of state. Isabel Peron served as president of Argentina from '74 until '76, when she was ousted by the military. So again, we see military ousting presidents, military ousting all the leaders of Argentina from the days of the caudillos in the 1800s, all throughout the 1900s as well. You see military factions deposing the leaders of Argentina, all right? So her short presidency was marked by the collapse of Argentine political and social systems, leading to a constitutional crisis that paved the way for a decade of instability, left-wing terrorist guerrilla attacks, and state-sponsored terrorism. So where are we at? Here we go. So I do want to read about the Dirty War, where Sucia, they said, was a part of Operation Condor. All right. So Operation Condor was a campaign of political repression by the right-wing dictatorships of the Southern Cone of South America. All right. So Operation Condor was specifically about the U.S. keeping an iron fist on South America, which included the participation of other right-wing dictatorships in the Southern Cone. The Dirty War involved state terrorism in Argentina and elsewhere in the Southern Cone against political dissidents, with military and security forces employing urban and rural violence against left-wing guerrillas, political dissidents, and anyone believed to be associated with socialism or somehow contrary to the neoliberal economic policies of the regime. All right, that's if y'all are unfamiliar, that's the type of government, that's the type of economic policies that America institutes are neoliberal. All right, victims of the violence in Argentina alone included an estimated 15 to 30,000 left-wing activists and militants, including trade unionists, students, journalists, Marxists, Peronist guerrillas, and alleged sympathizers. Some of the victims were casualties of state terrorism. The opposing guerrillas' victims numbered nearly 500 to 540 military and police officials, and up to 230 civilians. Argentina received technical support and military aid from the U.S. government during the Johnson, Nixon, Ford, Carter, and Reagan administrations, right? So the U.S. has had their hand in Argentina politics for a long time, all right? We at first mentioned it in the 40s, right, during World War II, and even into the Reagan administration, right? But we also just talked about Milei, their current president, who is very tight with Trump's right-hand man, Elon Musk, right? So, I'm not going to necessarily get into all of this, but again, it's more deposing, or rather, this is actually more political violence, is what this is, from 69 on into, I guess, the 80s, yeah. All right. So, it says Raul Alfonso won the 83 elections, campaigning for the prosecution of those responsible for the human rights violations during the processo, right, the trial of the juntas. Then it says, we're at Peronist Carlos Menem won the 89 election, all right, and he embraced the neoliberal policies, deregulation of businesses, right, privatization, right, so he was doing things that America would like, all right. So it says the 1994 constitutional amendment allowed Menem to be elected for a second term, with the economy beginning to decline in 95 with increasing unemployment and recession. The UCR, led by Fernando de la Rua, returned to the presidency in the 99 elections, right? So Menem didn't do very well, right? He did get elected for a second term, but the economy, kind of plummeted with his neoliberal deregulation and privatization. All right, so I'm kind of skipping around here, but you have Rua in as the president. That was in '99. He didn't do too much to fix the economy, I should say. He didn't do too much to fix the economy. And then you had riots in 2001, which forced him to resign. Let's see. So you had Nestor Kirchner was elected as the new president in 2000, or elected in 2002, but or rather was sworn in, I should say, in 2003. All right, so it said that he had neo-Keynesian economic policies, right, and that resulted in rapid GDP growth. All right, so paid off debts with the IMF. Right, so he did good things for their country, right? At least according to this article, right? So you had Nestor Kirchner and his wife later came into power as well in 2007, and in 2011 she won both those elections. And then let's see. Ended up having Macri come in 15. Let's see. You had Fernandez. So Fernandez won in 2019, and obviously COVID hit, messed up a lot, messed up like all the countries around the world. And then you have Milei, the current president, got elected in 2023. All right. But as said here, he's a libertarian outsider, right? At least that's how he's perceived. So why is he doing this whole I guess with being a libertarian outsider, quote unquote, he's cool with Musk. That's is he a puppet? Is he a puppet for Argentina? I mean, God only knows at this point. It seems like it. Let's talk about Northern Kingdom history real quick. All right. First of all, let's talk about how we know the Argentinians are Israelites according to the Bible. All right, they fit the prophecies of Naphtali, and y'all remember the tribes who were initially there before European colonization. All right, they were first of all, let's deal with Argentina and Chile. When you look at a map of South America, and of Naphtali, he said, this is Deuteronomy 33. O Naphtali, satisfied with favor and full with blessing of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south. Right, so if you look at what they were talking about, the southern cone of South America, it's mainly just Chile and Argentina, all right? Right, that would be the west and the south, all right? So on Genesis 49, Remember them tribes, I can't remember all of them. It's the Guarani, the Mwane, and I forget the other one. But the point is, there were nomadic tribes, all right? So in Genesis 49:21, it says, Naphtali is a hind let loose, right? Like a deer running, they were nomadic, all right? He gave goodly words, all right? That's, what is ours literally means good heirs, all right? He gave goodly words, he gave good heirs, all right? So let's talk a little bit about Northern Kingdom history. I'm not going to go into it too much, but just how modern history, right? The 1800s and the 1900s for the Argentinians looks a lot like this looks a lot like the Northern Kingdom history that you read in the scriptures. All right, so 1 Kings 16, starting with verse 1. I'll skip around in this chapter a little bit as well. It says, Then the word of the Lord came to Jehu, the son of Hanani, against Baasha. Right, Baasha is actually an Issacharite king over Northern Kingdom, which he actually overthrew Jeroboam. Right, Baasha didn't become king through the legacy, or didn't become king through lineage. Right, he took it by force. All right. Baasha saying, For as much as I exalted thee out of the dust, and made thee the prince, or made thee prince over my people Israel, thou hast walked in the way of Jeroboam, and hast made my people sin, to provoke me to anger with their sins. He said right there, so he said, look, you done the same thing Jeroboam did. Even though I caused you to come against him, you did the same thing. I don't remember if it was he overthrew Jeroboam or Jeroboam's son, but regardless, he walked in the same ways as Jeroboam, right? Behold, I will take away the posterity of Baasha and the posterity of his house, and will make thy house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Him that dieth of Baasha in the city shall the dogs eat, and him that dieth of the fields, or dieth of his in the field, shall the fowls of the air eat. You see that right there? So God said, look, I'm going to make sure that your posterity, right, your children don't get to rule either, because you're doing the same thing. All right? So, let's see. So Baasha, excuse me, it says, Now the rest of the acts of Baasha, what he did in his might, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? We don't have that book. We don't have the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. What we have in the Bible is the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. All right? And it's a good thing we don't have that book as well, because the books of the kings that we do have, they talk about how wicked and evil these kings were. And I'm sure in First Chronicles, or in the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel, it would just kind of praise them a little bit. So there's a reason why we don't have them. So Baasha slept with his fathers and was buried in Tirzah, and Elah his son reigned in his stead. And also by the hand of the prophet Jehu the son of Hanani came the word of the Lord against Baasha and against his house, even for all the evil that he did in the sight of the Lord, and provoking him to anger with the work of his hands, and being like the house of Jeroboam, because he killed him. Right, so you do have Baasha's son Elah come into power. But notice what happens here. All right, it said in the 26th year of Asa, king of Judah, began Elah, son of Baasha, to reign over Israel and Tirzah 2 years, and his servant Zimri, captain of half his chariots. Right, so this would be a Caudillo. All right, Caudillo, a Caudillo. All right, it's a military man. Right, it's a military strongman. With a man with military might who wields that power against the ruler and overcomes him, right? Conspired against him as he was in Tirzah, drinking himself drunk in the house of Arza, steward of his house in Tirzah. And Zimri went in and smote him and killed him in the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, and reigned in his stead. And it came to pass when he began to reign, as soon as he sat on his throne, that he slew all the house of Baasha, and left him not one that pissed against the wall, neither of his kinfolk nor of his friends, right? Because if the people, let's say they turn on Zimri and want to go establish one of Baasha's relatives and say, hey, he's the rightful heir to the throne. Well, now they can't do that because Zimri killed all his family. Now, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. Obviously, that's wicked. That's wicked and evil, but that's his mentality. That's what he's thinking. Hey, I can't leave any of his family around because A, they may either want vengeance or they may have a claim to the throne. All right. Thus did Zimri destroy all the house of Baasha, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake against Baasha by Jehu the prophet. for all the sins of Baasha, the sins of Allah his son, by which they sinned, and by which they made Israel to sin, and provoking the Lord God of Israel to anger with their vanities. Now the rest of the acts of Allah and all he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? All right. So we keep reading. All right. So notice about Zimri here in verse 15 in 1 Kings 16. It says, in the 27th year of Asa, king of Judah, did Zimri reign 7 days in Tirzah. He only reigned a week. And the people were encamped against Gibbethon, which belonged to the Philistines. And the people that were encamped heard say, Zimri hath conspired, and hath also slain the king. Wherefore all Israel made Omri the captain of the host, king over Israel, in that day in the camp. You see that right there? So they made Omri, a different Chaldeo, a different military strongman. The people decided, hey, we like him better than we like Zimri. All right? And Omri went up from Gibbethon, and all Israel with him, and they besieged Tirzah. And it came to pass when Zimri saw that the city was taken, that he went into the palace of the king's house and burnt the king's house over him with fire and died. Right? So he killed himself. He said, you ain't going to kill me, I'm going to kill me. Right? For his sins which he did, for his sins which he sinned in doing evil in the sight of the Lord, and walking in the way of Jeroboam, and his sin which he did, to make Israel to sin. Now the rest of the acts of Zimri and his treason that he wrought, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? All right? So with Omri here, he's like one of the Chaldeos who, I forget the name of the guy, because we just read a whole bunch of different names, so I forget. But one of the Chaldeos in the, who was fighting against the French blockade and the Anglo-French blockade. Omri is like them. He was a very powerful military man. All right, he was able to fight against all the people who tried to come against him. All right. So it says, then were the people of Israel divided into two parts, kind of like the centralist and the federalist in the history of Argentina. Half the people followed Tibni, the son of Ginath, to make him king, and half followed Omri. But the people that followed Omri prevailed against the people that followed Tibni and the son of Ginath. So Tibni died and Omri reigned. So Omri actually does give, he does reign all his life. He does not get overthrown, and he, passes the king. Passes the kingdom on down to his son Ahab, and Ahab is a little bit more popular in biblical legend, I suppose you could say. As it says here, he married Jezebel, right? And a lot of people, even if you don't know who Jezebel is, you've heard that name before. All right. So skipping over to 2 Kings, because this is the history in 1 Kings. This probably would have been, when would this have been? 800s ish. 800s-ish BC, right, somewhere around in there. In 2 Kings 15, I think it is, you have something similar going on, all right? Where, like, this was all throughout the history, all right? This was not just, that was just a little bit of time period. That's how the Northern Kingdom was. That's just how it was. Rarely would you have a king who kept the succession of his seed, right? It was mainly just the Chaldeos and coup d'etats and things like that. All right, so it said, in the 38th year of Azariah, king of Judah, did Zechariah, the son of Jeroboam, reign over Israel and Samaria 6 months. All right, so he reigned for 6 months. And this is Jeroboam II, by the way. This is the lineage of Jehu, not Jehu, son of Hanani, but Jehu, I forget who his dad is. But the Jehu who was king in Israel. All right. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, as his fathers had done, and he departed not from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. And Shalom, the son of Jabesh, conspired against him and smote him before the people and slew him and reigned in his stead. So here you see it again, a military coup d'etat. All right. The rest of the acts of Zechariah, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. This was the word of the Lord which he spake to Jehu, saying, thy son shall sit on the throne of Israel until the 4th generation. And so it came to pass. So I think Jehu, that was the longest lineage who actually reigned in the Northern Kingdom, was this Jehu that's on right here. Not the son of Hanani that we were just reading about, but a different Jehu. I think that's the longest lineage. Whereas if you look at Judah, for example, and it was just the lineage of David and Solomon, Rehoboam, so on and so forth, until you get to Zedekiah. But in the Northern Kingdom, it was different. It was always switching. It was always military coup d'etats, like what we read in the history of Argentina. All right. I think that those 4 generations of Jehu were the was the longest lineage of any king, and that actually ruled in the northern kingdom. And then it says Shalom the son of Jabesh began to reign in the 39th year of Uzziah king of Judah, and he reigned a full month in Samaria. Look at that, he reigned a full month. He wasn't Zimri, but he wasn't much better, right? He reigned a full month. For Menahem the son of Gadi went up from Tirzah and came to Samaria and smote Shalom the son of Jabesh in Samaria and slew him and reigned in his stead. The rest of the acts of Shalom and his conspiracy which he made, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. Then Menahem smote Tifsa and all that were therein, and the coast thereof from Tirzah, because they opened not to him. So here you have an instance of a city not recognizing a particular king, King Menahem, and so he destroyed that city, even though it was in his territory, right? They didn't recognize him as king, so he said, "The hell with this city, I'm going to destroy it." Therefore he smote it, and all the women therein that were with child he ripped up. Right, so his own people, he's ripping the babies up out of the womb, right? So in the 39th year of Azariah king of Judah, began Menahem the son of Gadi to reign over Israel, and reigned 10 years in Samaria. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not all his days from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin. It says, and Pul, this is Tiglath-Pileser, I believe the third, king of Assyria, came against the land, and Menahem gave Pul 1,000 talents of silver, that his hand might be with him to confirm the kingdom in his hand. And Menahem exacted the money of Israel, even of all the mighty men of wealth, of each man 50 shekels of silver, to give to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria turned back and stayed not there in the land. And the rest of the acts of Menahem and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? And Menahem slept with his fathers, and Pekahiah his son reigned in his stead. Right, so you have Pekahiah here. He actually received the succession from his father Menahem, in the 50th year of Azariah, king of Judah. This Azariah is the same as Uzziah, as I said earlier. King of Judah, Pekahiah, the son of Menahem, began to reign over Israel and Samaria, and he reigned 2 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who made Israel to sin, but Pekah, son of Remaliah, a captain of his, again, a Caudillo, right, conspired against him and smote him in Samaria, in the palace of the king's house, with Argob and Aryeh, with him 50 men of the Gileadites. And he killed him and reigned in his room. And the rest of the acts of Pekahiah and all that he did, behold, they are written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. All right, so you had Pekah, the son of Remaliah. He did a military coup on Pekahiah. All right. That's just a little bit of how Northern Kingdom operates. All right, that's just a little bit of how we are in our nature, and that's why, as far as Northern Kingdom is concerned, I speak as a Northern Kingdom Israelite. We don't deserve the throne. I'm just telling you straight. We don't deserve the rulership. We give it up to the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Christ, he came from Judah. I'm not saying that like all Judites are better, because there's a lot of wicked Judites, but hey, we need our Lord. We need the King. You know what I'm saying? We need the Son of God ruling over us, because we can't do it ourselves. We cannot do it ourselves. We've shown that we were defective. We've shown that we can't do it. All right. In Hosea 1 and 11, I'll start with 1 and 10, because it got to the point. I'm gonna start with verse 8 actually. Here in Hosea 1 and 8, it says, because when you read the prophet Hosea, he mentions Judah, but he's basically specifically just referring to the northern kingdom. He's just prophesying to and against, I should say, the northern kingdom. All right. So start with verse 8. Now when she had weaned Lo Ruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said God, call his name Lo Ami, for you are not my people, and I will not be your God. So it got so bad, it got to the point where God told his people, he told the Northern Kingdom Israelites, he said, y'all ain't even my people no more. I can't even deal with you. Y'all not even my people no more. Verse 10. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea. Right? Like if you look at the, and this is more Northern Kingdom in general, but if you look at the demographic numbers in the U.S., the largest, or I should say the fastest growing demographic racially in the U.S. is the Latino population. All right? It says, the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God. Right? So this is twofold right here, because in ancient times it was told to us in the land of Israel by the prophet Hosea. He said, look, God said y'all not my people anymore. Yet we're going to be delivered and go back home to the land, and God's going to call us his children, right? Call us the sons of the living God. But also over here in America, right? It said that we're Argentinian or Chilean or Mexican or Indian, or even including Judah as well. You say black, right? Whereas it's also being taught here by the prophets that he's sending out that, hey, y'all are the children of Israel. Y'all are the Israelites. Y'all are the sons of the living God, right? This is the point that I want to hear. Verse 11, then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head. And they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel. Right? So that one head is Jesus Christ. All right? And we need him because we've shown that we can't do it on our own. This Milei guy, I don't even know if he's an Israelite. He might be. He might not be. I don't know if he's like actually Argentinian or Chilean, or if he's like Bolsonaro in Brazil. I don't know too much about Milei. But regardless, hey, he's not fit to be leader of the people. All right? So, in Hosea 3 and 5, it says, afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord their God and David their king, and shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days. You see right there. So we're seeking the Lord. When it said David here, it's just talking about the king on the throne of David. That's all it's referring to. It's not saying we actually got to worship David. All right? But seek unto the Lord, man. Seek unto the Lord, and we can come back to him. Y'all Argentinians out there, y'all actually Israelites of the tribe of Naphtali. All right? So, Amos 9, I do want to make this plain, though. I want to make this plain. Because even some Israelites, some people that claim to be in the truth, they believe that just because you're an Israelite, that means you're going to get salvation. No, that is not the case. All right? In Amos 9 and 10, it says, all the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say that evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. Right? So, you think you fine just because you're an Israelite? No. You got to repent and keep the commandments of God. All right? All the sinners going to die. All the sinners going to die. You want to act like the heathen, you're going to be treated like the heathen. See, that's what happened with the kingdom that we had in the past. Like that we were just reading about that in Northern Kingdom history. We were doing the military coup d'etats. You even read about Menahem going and ripping the babies out the womb. That's how the heathen treated us. You know? That if you want to be like the heathen, you're going to get treated like the heathen. You're going to go into captivity. All right? And you're going to die with the heathen. You know what I'm saying? Like, all the sinners are going to die by the sword. But, here's what we need. In Revelation, in Revelation 14 and verse 12, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. That's what we need. We need to keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus, that he will be our king, that he will be the one to unite